Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and today I am doing another Let's Talk video. So I am covering, as you probably could tell by the thumbnail and the title, I am covering sales. So we made it through Black Friday, we made it through the holiday sales, and so I kind of wanted to reflect a little bit on that. And really, if you've seen these videos before, I just psychobabble about just society and mindsets, and somehow it connects with you guys, and I really do appreciate that. I also am doing this a get ready with me style, so this is the finished look. A lot of you guys were asking for me to do an eyeshadow get ready with me with the It's My Pleasure to give you this look with the Earth Shine shade, and so I do a full get ready with me and put on a full face, and this is what we end up with. So without me rambling a whole bunch, because I ramble through the rest of this video, I will go ahead and let fresh-faced Erin get into it, and we will talk about the mindset behind sales. All right, hopefully all done up. Erin did an intro to this video, but I am coming at you barefaced because I am doing this get ready with me style. And a bunch of you had asked me to do kind of like a tutorial of how I am using my Pan That palette for the year. So that's the ColourPop It's My Pleasure. So I'm going to be doing my look with that one. But as you can see, my face is going through it a little bit right now. I am really breaking out down here, so we will have a little bit to cover. My redness was flaring up really bad yesterday because I was outside doing yard work, but we will see what we can do. I have my mirror in front of me, so if we get any weird reflections, it's because my simple human mirror is down here and it lights up, so sometimes I do have some reflections. But as you can see from the title of this video, and I'm going in with my primer, I am going to talk to you guys about sale items. I think I was going to do this video and maybe it would have been more helpful back then, but I was thinking about doing this video in December, but then like a bunch of just wrap-ups and outros and inventories kind of took my attention away. But you know, we are inundated with sale items in the holiday season, and so I think that sometimes we have to realize, and I'm going to steal this quote, and I'll go into a little bit about who I'm stealing this from, but are we taking advantage of the sales, or are the sales taking advantage of us? So as we kind of reset for the beginning of the year, I definitely want to kind of reflect on this idea before like the 21 Days of Beauty and the spring Sephora sale roll around. I kind of want to go over this topic, and I have my foundation mixed up on my palette, and I told you guys, I'll tell you who I stole that quote from. I have been really focusing on like the financial side of YouTube, and so I mean this guy, his channel has just blown up over the past year, but Caleb Hammer, and I'll link him down below, but he does financial audits on people, and basically, you know, people wanting to get out of debt, he kind of does like the tough love type thing with them. And you know, he talks about whether or not you are a credit card person or not. And with that, he says, you know, are you taking advantage of the credit card, or is the credit card taking advantage of you? And I also want to come back to that because before this video, I looked at the Sephora sales site and I saw something that I feel like is concerning, and I would love to get y'all's feedback on it as well. But watching more of like the financial side of YouTube has kind of brought some things to the top of my brain, and I think that it's stuff that we probably need to talk about. So as you guys will know from prior videos, I do a beauty budget every year, and if you hear snoring noises, I have a sleeping dog in my room with me. And as I'm filming this, because I logged onto the Sephora site to look at stuff, Sephora just text messaged me being like, oh, hey, did something catch your eye? Again, they are out to get our money. So we have to be more mentally strong than their marketing tactics. But I do a beauty budget, and so by the end of the year, if I'm not already allocating my budget towards certain things, I typically do not have a whole lot of room to just purchase willy-nilly when the sales come around. And so during the Black Friday time, which of course those sales started in like September, October, so it's kind of like the way that I feel about that is they're starting sales sooner, so they're getting our money sooner. And then if they release even quote unquote better sales closer to the time around Black Friday, then they get even more of our money. And so again, all of this is sales tactics. None of this is from the company out of the goodness of their heart. So with my beauty budget, I had to be very, very conscious about what I wanted to spend and where and if I had anything left over, to the point that I basically had to ask my husband to take some of the things that I wanted and kind of supply them to me as Christmas gifts, which again, we do a Christmas budget every year. So if it didn't fit into the Christmas budget, then I would have not received those things as Christmas gifts. So again, I had to be mindful of that part. So with the eye look, I'm going to go in with Kitten Fish and Fan Fiction are going to be my first two that I'm going to go in with. I'm going to be using the Singe Beauty brushes. And so we're going to go in with a lighter one first, which is Kitten Fish, which is this one right here. So during that time of Black Friday, there was plenty of things that I wanted. But again, I think that a lot of people that have found my channel are not yet in the mindset that I've put myself into with being able to say no to things. So I basically, and I'll give the example of, I love Viseart eyeshadows and their formula, and so I would not mind having tons of Viseart palettes, and they were having an amazing sale. And the amount of times that I went on to Viseart's site to look at it and kind of see what the prices were and like see if it fit in my budget, probably even that was not good for my brain as far as when it comes to spending, because if I'm going back and looking at it, then that is another temptation. And I think when I do like these let's talk videos, I mean, really, I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants with this one right here, but I think in my head, who, what, when, where, why? You know, who are we targeting? Who are we talking to? You know, if in your heart of hearts, you know that you spent way too much money during the Black Friday sales and at the end of the year, then you are who this is for. Anytime that we end up having a regret of something, or we kind of end up sitting back after the fact and feeling guilty about an action that we did, we have to say, okay, well, what is the underlying problem? Was it that your favorite influencer was like touting a certain brand or a certain sale, which we have to be careful of that? Was it that, you know, this is something that's been on your wish list all year long and you were responsibly buying it whenever it went on sale? You know, what category do you fall into when it comes to sale shopping? All right, I got my base colors set up, so now we're gonna go in with some shimmers, and I have my glitter glue. So I think that if you are somebody who, after all of the shopping, you sat back and you had regrets, or you felt bad, or, you know, you're hiding packages from your family, your significant other, whoever, or like I kind of touched on in my buys and buys, if you are going into debt to buy these things on sale, then you don't need them. Then that is where the mindset shift needs to happen. The next two, I'm going to go into Bare Minimum and then Earth Shine. So I think that we have to recognize when the behavior has become dysfunctional, and when the few seconds of that endorphin and serotonin hit, when that little moment has passed and now you have regret, again, that is your mind's cue telling you that there's a problem. So, and now I'm going to go in with Earth Shine. So I think that we need to kind of learn to listen to those cues, and that is the part where it can be extremely uncomfortable because we are now faced with the dilemma, I guess, that we did something wrong. And I think that that's sometimes the hardest thing. And that's why they say, you know, for some people, apologizing is extremely hard because we are faced with and we are owning up to the fact that we did something that did not benefit us emotionally, spiritually, in our relationships, you know, monetarily. We are kind of owning up to that and we are facing that. And that can be very uncomfortable if that's something that we're not used to doing. Let's see here. I need my little shader brush. And I'm just going back in with fan fiction, and we're going to do a little bit on the lower lash line. So I think that that's how we can maybe recognize that we're having a problem with sale items. And I think maybe a lot of the topics within my Let's Talk series, they might overlap because I think that there is a component of the fear of missing out, the component of wanting to fit in, of wanting to experience a product. Let's say that a YouTuber or an influencer that we like, they really enjoyed a product, and so us also getting that product and, you know, trying it out and possibly enjoying it, that also allows us to feel closer to that person, even though we don't have an actual friendship or relationship with that person. And I know that there is a word for that. Is that like a parasocial relationship where we feel like we spend so much time watching somebody's content that we then feel like we have a relationship? I think that that also has allowed people to feel a little bit too comfortable being mean or honest on the internet with like comments and things like that. I think that they feel like they are owed the right to comment on other people's lives because they feel like they have that parasocial relationship. So we're going to leave the eyes where they are right now, and I'm going to go in and try to cover up some of my spots before we move on. But I think acknowledging what category of consumer we fall into with sale items is very, very important. And I think another kind of thing to ask yourself is, if you would not purchase it full price, you probably don't need to purchase it on sale. And I know a lot of people maybe don't want to hear that. And, you know, I think sometimes too, and we'll talk about like social economic status and kind of like realizing, and this might be the wrong way to say it, but what tax bracket somebody might fit into. And again, this is not shaming anybody for the income that they have, the job that they have, the situation in life that they have. But I think that there is a purpose of being based in your own reality. And being based in your own reality is realizing what your income can support. And again, that is why I've really enjoyed watching Caleb's channel, and I'll link it down below. It might not be for everybody because he does do some tough love for people, but again, I think that that sometimes is what we need. So I will link the channel down below in case anybody wants to check it out or needs kind of a check in reality about their own situation. But I think that puppy dogs. And again, I go in tangents, and eventually I will circle back in these videos, but I do end up going on tangents. But I think something that I have noticed, because he does financial audits on a lot of people that are millennials and Gen Z, and I think that what I am realizing is that millennials and Gen Z are the first generations that had an escape from reality with video games, with social media, with more options out there for virtual versus real life things that we can do. And so think we're seeing a lot more people that are escaping from their reality in this mindset of, I can keep up with the influencers and I can have all this stuff. And I think too, we are in such a mindset of influencers that we think to ourselves that I need the expensive car, I need this, that, and the other. And something that Caleb says a lot in his videos is, when people are spending money on car washes, but they can't afford groceries, he's basically like, who are you washing your car for? You expect somebody that you pull up to next to at a stoplight to be like, oh my God, that person, they must be so successful or they must be so amazing because their car is washed. And the thing is, we are so caught up in our own lives that we don't even notice if somebody's car is clean. We don't. We're in our own heads thinking about what are we doing, with the kids? What are we making for dinner? I'm miserable at my job. I wish I could go do something about my mental health. Like, we are thinking about so many other things in our brains that when we end up putting on this performance for other people to have them assume that we are doing better than we are, then that kind of bothers me in the sense that instead of actually putting the work and the effort and even the resources into ourselves, we would rather present a facade to the world that says that we are doing okay, but really on the inside, mentally, financially, within our own relationships, within our own households, like it is falling apart. And I think that's where the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. And, even if we are looking at, the outside looking in, what is it? There's so many expressions like, don't throw stones in glass houses, like, don't judge a book by its cover, like all of these things that are these words of wisdom to remind us that what looks good from the outside might not be so good on the inside. So definitely, I think that mentality, and again, I'm going off into tangents, but that mentality passes along into consumerism and our desire to have more. And, if we just have that one palette that everybody has been coveting, then people will think that we are cool, or, we'll finally get X, Y, and Z attention. And I think that mindset again comes from consumerism, and I don't want to totally blame it on influencers and the uptick in social media, because marketing has been wanting us to feel like this for a very long time. And so this is how businesses make their money, by making us believe that these are things that we need, when really what you need: food, shelter, clothing, and some sort of sense of security. And, whatever that means, sometimes even just having a roof over your head is your sense of security. Getting out of a bad situation, that could be your sense of security. But I think that is, even then, food, shelter, clothing, and a sense of security falls on us to do that for ourselves. That is not anybody else's job, unless you're a child or you are a compromised adult. It is your own job to provide those things for yourself. And if instead of making sure that food, shelter, clothing, and a sense of security, if you are putting one of those by the wayside for beauty products, then again, we have more to the discussion about our just mentality around making sure that, I guess, our mindset and mentality around what feeling does that thing bring you instead of bypassing that thing and actually getting closer to security of food, shelter, clothing, and those types of things. So if you guys can't tell, I really love the psychology behind why we do the things we do. I kind of look at people like puzzles, and whenever I see somebody doing something, and again, like the Caleb show has been a great kind of like way for me to observe people and their relationship with finances and things and spending, that it has been extremely fun and rewarding for me to watch that. But my lips are super dry, so I'm going to put some of the Summer Fridays balm on here. So again, I really feel like the uncomfortable exercise of asking ourselves why. And again, I think I mentioned this in some of my other Let's Talk videos about asking ourselves why. I think that we need to approach it with extreme compassion for ourselves. What is it? There's a quote that says, treat yourself how you would treat somebody that you love. And I think that, of course, a lot of the pushback that I hear from that is, well, I don't love myself, so of course I treat myself like crap. But if you have a child and you went up to them and they did some sort of behavior, they knocked over something, or they were frustrated and they did something they weren't supposed to, and you went up to them and been like, why did you do that? You're so stupid. Why can't you figure it out? That is not the way to approach a child, especially a young child that can't process their emotions. But I think that if we approach ourselves like, why did you buy that thing? You're such an idiot. You know you're not supposed to do that. Now you have to feel horrible and you have to hide it from everybody. Like, if we're talking to ourselves like that, then we are not going to get anywhere with our progress towards any sort of goals of changing a behavior. So I think that shame has a place in society and it has a place in recognizing a feeling, but shame does not have a place in actually effective change. So do not shame yourself for any of this. It is a learning experience, and say, okay, I have learned from feeling shame from this. I've learned that this is something that I need to change. So now I'm going to approach it with compassion for myself. So when we ask ourselves why we are doing certain things, really be honest with yourself. Is it because you just wanted to feel special with receiving something in the mail? Was it because, you felt like other people were going to be impressed with the thing that you ended up buying? Like, really ask yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I perusing the sales section, just looking for, and I'll say it, junk to end up buying? Now, of course, there were some decent things that went on sale. And again, Black Friday is a huge component of just maybe buying things we don't need. But I just looked at the Sephora sales section, and there is not really anything good on there. A lot of the things are the Sephora brand, or things that don't really have a whole lot of like good reviews, or we are looking at things that are getting discontinued, which again, if it's a holy grail product for you and you have it in your budget and you're not going to go into debt for it, go for it. But if it's something where you're like, oh, I just feel like I really need another blush, but I already have 17 blushes, but this one is on sale for $12 and it's originally $40. We make it in our brain that we're getting a good deal. And what is it? So, bless my husband, but we have a lot of sayings when it comes to like purchasing and things like that. But whenever we say, oh, I got this on sale, I got it for a really good deal, we always kind of ask each other, but how much did you have to spend to get it on sale? And that kind of puts that into perspective for us, that even though you're getting something on sale that wasn't necessarily something that you needed or something that had been on a loves list for a really long time, you were waiting for it to go on sale, you still felt an emotional connection to it. You spent money just to get something on sale that might not be any good. So that is the part where we kind of joke with each other, and again brings it into perspective of, did you really save money by purchasing this thing, or did you just spend money on something needlessly because you perceived the value of it because it was marked down? Take that however you guys want to process that, but that is how we kind of end up keeping each other in check when it comes to whether or not we're going to buy something on sale. And definitely, because we do have a household income and a household budget, if we are going to be purchasing anything large, we run it by each other. Like, hey, I really want to buy X, Y, and Z. Like when I bought my new camera, I said, hey, I'm really enjoying my YouTube. I really want to improve, and he's home. So let me let the dogs bark and let him get in the house, and then I will finish. But I guess I'll talk about even the concept of perceived value. So I think that any time that we see something, we will project a perceived value onto it. And that is saying to ourselves, I would spend X amount of money on that. And each of us is going to have a very individual perceived value because each of us is coming from a different point of expendable money, income, maybe even just our current spending with things. The example that I can give, and I don't even know if this is a good example, but let's say that somebody wants to go purchase a new car, and they go and they purchase a Lexus versus a Toyota. They are the same car. Different branding, maybe different things here and there, but they are the same car. But you are willing to spend $10,000 more for a Lexus because you perceive the value of that brand to be higher than a Toyota. Then that is up to you. If it's in your budget, if it works with you, then that is your perceived value. I think too that comes down to the perceived value when we look at makeup of Pat McGrath versus, a more mid-range brand. I think that also goes from perceived value of, and this is a good example because I had to work on my mindset with this, the perceived value of indie shadows versus Natasha Denona. So Natasha Denona, I apparently feel totally okay spending $69 on one of her mid-size palettes. But if I saw an indie brand that I wasn't really familiar with the brand, I wasn't familiar with the formula, but they had a $69 palette, same amount of shades, same all of that, I would perceive the value of Natasha Denona as higher than the indie brand. And if it's because I already have an emotional connection to it, if I already have a idea about how the product works, then that is where my perceived value will end up sitting. So we have to be aware of what our own perceived values are and where we are willing to spend our money versus where we would end up having regrets down the line. And apparently none of the dogs have realized that my husband opened the garage and he's in the garage. So they have not figured that out yet, but they've been outside playing all morning, so they're all taking naps because the weather has been cold, but it's been nice and they've been enjoying their time outside. So I guess a lot of this with sales items comes back to maybe bias is the wrong word, but somewhere between bias and preference that, if we have a good perception of a brand and a product, then we are more likely to have unnecessary spending towards that brand, which is like brand loyalty and things like that. I think that even goes into, I think I had mentioned in another video about like the points and the loyalty systems at Ulta and Sephora. They are not here for us. They are here for the brands to be able to spend or have us spend more money at the different companies. So definitely those are not there for our benefit. And that makes me even think about, I've been extremely disappointed with Ulta's sales over the past year, and I find myself shopping at Ulta a whole lot less. especially because there are many things at Ulta that I can get at Walmart or Target for typically cheaper. And so that is where I will more likely spend my money than at Ulta, and especially because Ulta only gives good coupons and good discounts to people that are at the highest tier, but you have to spend like 12 or $1,300 in a year to get to that tier. And I don't like that. I think that that is encouraging people to overspend. Now they just realize that my husband's home, so let me let them bark. So I kind of feel like those loyalty programs and sales, kind of like casinos, like the casino will typically always win. There is not, a board member for these companies sitting up there being like, you know what we can really do that's amazing for our customers? No, they are saying, okay, whenever we host these sales, whenever we release these coupons, this is how much our sales go up. So this might be the only time that I advocate for buying things on sale. I closed my door. If you guys can hear my dogs barking, obviously you can. It's going to pick up on the camera, and I'm sorry for that. But I think the only time that I would advocate for buying things on sale is when we realize that if a company can mark things down by 30%, and I will call out Pat McGrath on this one because I get the emails all the time. If a company can consistently run 30% off sales, that means that they are still making a profit on their items, marking them down by 30%. So again, sales are not there to benefit you. We can take advantage of them as long as they're not taking advantage of us. Like Pat McGrath loves doing this where she says, oh, well, if you spend $120, you get this amount off. But the thing is, all of her big palettes are like $129. So it's almost that she is pushing you to make a larger purchase because, or maybe she does it like 135 or 150 to get to a certain tier to get a certain amount off. And it's like, oh, if you want one of the mothership palettes, then I'm going to make you buy like a lipstick or like an eyeliner. I'm going to make you buy more to get to a certain tier. And I think like Ulta even has a section on their sales that says buy more, save more. And the part of it that is the first part, buy more. They are saying buy more to get a certain percentage off. And so that's the part where we have to be aware as consumers that that is not there to help us out. So how do we strategize our shopping during sales times? And this is where I almost kind of miss how Black Friday used to be. And again, I don't miss the whole like people sitting out there at 3 o'clock in the morning and like pushing each other to get the 3 TVs that are set out or whatever. But we have to strategize our shopping. And I think this is where the companies have realized that if they allow more time for people to shop, we do less strategizing. Let me spray my face and I'll go more into this topic. So I think whenever we used to have to strategize about what we were purchasing during these sales for like holiday, we made a list, we combed through the like mailers and catalogs to see what we wanted to buy. We had everything written down, like Susie is getting this and Johnny is getting this, and we knew exactly like we're going to go to this store first and hit up this and get these deals, and then we're going to go to this store. And like we used to have a plan in place to shop. And now when you can easily scroll on your phone, you can shop for 2.5 months of deals, that cuts down on the fact that we are no longer planning to shop. And that's why when I even did one of my videos that it was like plan on my budget for the rest of the year, I still am doing that planning, but it's because I have worked on my impulse control to not shop that entire time. And even if we have a plan, it's saying, okay, if I have a plan to go ahead and purchase this thing whenever it opens up, But then something else really interesting opens up a week later, and I go and I just like, oh, well, I already got that on sale. I'm going to get this too. And we blow our budget, or we go into debt to buy these things. Again, we're going against our plan and maybe our goal to, and this is why I did my beauty budget, is so that I am not going into debt to purchase things. I have a set budget, I have a set amount, I pay myself back out of my savings account. So I don't have the mindset anymore that I can just put it on a credit card and pay it off later. We can't do that. We can't go into debt for eyeshadow. We can't. And maybe 20-year-old me would disagree, but almost 40-year-old me who is not wanting to work for the next 30 years, which who was there was a debate or a presidential thing recently, which I will never go into politics on this, but they were talking about Social Security and like our generation and how the new norm is them expecting us to work until 70. And I'm like, excuse me? A lot of us, like I started working whenever I was like 12 or 13, like babysitting and helping out like a neighbor who had a business. And so we would like help out with their stuff on the back end. And like a lot of us that are either Gen X or older millennials, we started working at like 13, 14, 15. We don't want to work until we're 70. We don't want to do that. So diving into the financial side of YouTube has really opened my eyes to that and made me think for the future of, I don't want to work until I'm 70. I don't want to, which Caleb ends up saying, dying on the Walmart floor. And what he means by that is that we go so far into debt, we think only about the now, about purchasing now. We don't think about the future. We don't think about what it's like to be debt free. And that basically, like, we are going to be old, working at Walmart, dying on the Walmart floor because we have to continue to work to support ourselves because we did not save for the future. And I think even within social media and music, like, we kind of have this attitude, like, the live fast, die young. Like, we think to ourselves, we're going to stay young forever, and we don't ever perceive ourselves in our parents' place, like having to retire and live on fixed incomes and deal with inflation with what they have saved from the past, 40, 50 years. We can't perceive ourselves there. So I think that there's a lot that goes into this. I think it's a lot in society that puts pressure on us to maybe not do the right thing, but definitely it is something that we need to be aware of. So let me go ahead and put some highlight on and make my face sparkle, and I will see if I want to move on. I'll try to think about what topic I want to move on to next. Oh, this is the part that I wanted to bring up. So while I was on Sephora's sale page, at the very bottom, there was advertisements for credit cards. And when I looked at it, it doesn't look like it's an actual advertisement for like applying for a credit card, but it is an advertisement to purchase things on Sephora. And this was for Capital One. I'll call them out because you guys can probably go on there and see the ad. But it was basically like, hey, if you use your Capital One card to purchase off of Sephora, here's a code you can use for whatever. It didn't even say what the code was for. It didn't say if it was for cash back. It didn't say if it was for like a certain percentage off. It just said code available. So we are now even, and this happens on Amazon too, whenever you are on Amazon and they're like, hey, you can get $50 off your purchase if you open an Amazon credit card. And these are the ways that they get us to say, oh, and this also goes to Afterpay and Klarna and, all of those things where it's like interest-free payments. Again, if you cannot purchase it outright right now with your bank account, then that's probably not something that you need. And this is not shaming anybody who is, in a different socioeconomic place. This is not to shame anybody. And if the only way that you can get things that you are rarely interested in is when they're on sale, then more power to you. But it is having the mindset of how can I budget for that thing that when I do purchase it on sale, I'm not putting it on credit. And that's the part that I think that we end up falling into the trap of if it is scarcity mindset or fear of missing out. And so we're sitting there saying, if I don't purchase this now, I'm never going to get it. And that can lead us down a very, very dangerous road. And trust me, I have been in all aspects of social economic status, socioeconomic status. Let me correct myself on that one. But I've been in every stage. Like my husband and I used to make very little money and live in apartments that I don't even think that the rent is that low anywhere right now. But we've lived at every single stage. We have had to make really tough decisions of needing cheaper rent and not being able to take one of our dogs with us back in the day. Like we had to leave one of our dogs with a family member who lived 5 hours away for a year just because we could not afford to live in an apartment that allowed pets. Like we've had to make hard decisions. We had to skimp on food, and we've had to, you know, discipline ourselves to not go out to eat and not go to a movie because we didn't have $30 to spend on going out to a movie. Like we've been in those positions where we had to make hard decisions between this and this. So I'm not ever dogging on anybody if they're in that position, but I am, and my mirror turned off. All I'm saying is that sometimes we have choices to make to either dig ourselves further into situations or do the little practices that get us out of those situations. So I'm going on a rampage right now, and I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole talking about things where, and again, it's not necessarily making anybody uncomfortable, but I know sometimes we can be very defensive, we can be very protective over our current situations and our current like financial situations, which you guys are going to have to tell me, because I think my demographic kind of falls into maybe a little bit older than me and then a little bit younger than me. That's the majority of the people that are watching my channel. And tell me down in the comments, how much did your parents talk to you about their finances? I'm curious, because I end up seeing a lot of people that are saying, oh, well, my parents never talked to me about budgeting, and my parents never talked to me about this, that, and the other. And I think at a certain point, that is no longer an excuse. Once you are an adult, making your own money, living on your own, it is now your own responsibility to educate yourself. Nobody is going to come up and say, hey, 18, 19-year-old, let me educate you about finances. No, it is now our responsibility as adults to seek that out. But so many times I hear people talk about how their parents never talked about this stuff. So all they knew was that groceries magically appeared in the house, or, they, especially for millennials and kind of younger, just the new gaming system appeared and the new car happened every couple years. They didn't necessarily see the struggle or the debt or, the second and third mortgages. Like they did not see that. And I think that at a certain point, hiding that stuff from your kids does an extreme disservice, because they don't understand that being an adult comes with sacrifice. And seeing some of these, like what is the newest like generation? Is it like Generation Alpha or something like that, where like somebody was saying it was like the generation of kids that grew up on iPads. So that generation, who they can throw an iPad on the ground in a fit and break an $800 piece of, now, even more expensive than that, but an $800 device, and their parents just go out and buy them another one. What? Like, you knew that if you popped your head off of your Barbie, that you better push that thing back on and figure out how to make that Barbie still, have a head and play. If you cut the hair off your Barbie, then guess what? You played with a Barbie with no hair. Like, there wasn't this replacement mentality that, oh my God, my kids have to have this. So I think that every generation wants to, quote unquote, do better than the generation before them. But I think at some point it does come with the detriment to the next generation. So if we are giving things better to the next generation, but we aren't showing them the hard work, the sacrifice, the debt that happens to give that better life, we are doing them a disservice. They expect to just go off into the real world as adults and have that same life without the sacrifice, without the work. And so we really have to kind of check our own selves and our mindsets and our spending, our relationship with debt. We have to do that. No, again, nobody is going to come in and save us and say, well, you've gotten yourself into quite a bit of debt. Let's go ahead and bring that back, or let's get you in therapy, or let's do this. Nobody's going to come and do that. And that is the hard truth that I think that I had to learn, is that nobody's going to come and save you. We are responsible for saving ourselves. And I don't know how I ended up on this topic, but this is just something that I am extremely passionate about after seeing so many people in financial trouble and not knowing the way out, and financial trouble over colored powders or the new car, even though the car that you had that was paid off was running perfectly fine. That is what hurts my heart. And so I don't want to see other people go down this road, because I'm still recovering from it. So again, I'm not sitting here on my high horse saying that I've done everything perfectly and I know better than everybody else. I'm not. I'm still recovering from what I put myself through over the past couple years. But I think it first came with me asking myself, what the hell are you doing? And being extremely honest with myself, even if the honesty was quote unquote ugly or uncomfortable, like the honesty mattered. And so I think definitely the group that has been drawn to my channel is very mature in the sense of, and again, this has nothing to do with age. And I got a little mascara on me, and the only spoolie I have is on my brow pencil, so that'll work. But I think that it comes with a maturity of being ready to ask yourself the hard questions and being prepared to kind of get the answers from yourself about maybe some of these behaviors and mindsets that you have had that have not served you in the future or in the past. All right, I think we are going to do lips and then we will be done. I'm going to do a little bit of my hairline powder, which I did repress into my Stila Compact, which looks like this, so I can hit pan on this all over again. So I guess kind of with all of my babbling, which bless you guys for watching some of these, because I don't come into any of this with any talking points. I just kind of bounce from idea to idea, but hopefully I'm hitting some, points for you guys that make sense and is helpful. But I think my takeaway is that always asking yourself, are you taking advantage of the sale, or is the sale taking advantage of you? And remember that companies are not out here to be your friends. Companies are out here to sell products. And if they are marking things down by 30%, they are still making a profit. So be aware of that. I think it is going into sales with a strategy and with a budget. Think about how we used to do Black Friday shopping, where you actually had to plan out the stores you were going to go to. You had to plan out who is getting what, and are those gifts meaningful? Think about it that way when you are gifting to yourself. Think to yourself, am I going into debt for this thing? I'm going to push my mirror back a little bit so my face will get a little bit darker, but I still have my other lights on me. So, ooh, love when the makeup comes together. I love it. But definitely, I would say, I think the takeaway from a lot of my content about conscious consumerism is being honest with yourself, which again can be very uncomfortable and can be very hard to do. And so take the time that you need, be compassionate and graceful towards yourself through all of that, because the biggest thing that we can do to stop ourselves from making progress is to beat ourselves up too much from slipping up and then having the mindset that, well, if I'm just going to screw it up, if I'm not going to do it right, then I'm not going to do it at all. I might as well give up now because I'm not going to get it right. That is the worst mindset we can have when we are doing something different. Just think about this, and this is an analogy that I like to use all the time, is think about the baby steps about weightlifting or an Olympic athlete. So that athlete did not start out on day one being Olympic ready. That athlete started out being uncoordinated and not knowing the steps, not knowing the moves, not having the strength, not having the discipline. That athlete started out on day one as a normal person who had a goal and maybe had some support behind them, because of course most athletes start out as kids who, grow up to be Olympic athletes, but they had a little bit of a support system behind them, which I hope that this channel can be that kind of support system. But they started out with a goal, and they started out with just a desire to do something different, to change themselves for the better. And each time that they went to practice, each time that they were disciplined, each time that they went to a meet and at least competed, they ended up getting one step closer to the goal. Even if they completely bombed, came in last place, whatever it is. And I think that even if we use a sports or athlete analogy, even if an athlete gets hurt, if we stumble down, if we do the wrong thing, if we completely hit rock bottom again with our spending or whatever, take the time to heal. So the athlete doesn't just get up after an injury and start back at the place where they were when they were injured. They are kind of set back some, but they're like, okay, I'm set back. I'm going to take it a little bit slower. I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. I'm going to make sure that my body is in the right place. My mind is in the right place. They take that time to care for themselves so that when they're healed and they get back into it, then they can be successful again. So I think a lot of times, again, with social media, we see these perfect lives with this expensive lifestyle and these people spending money and going on trips and doing all this stuff. But we think that we can have that lifestyle without putting in the work, even if the work is whatever these influencers are doing. And I think this comes back to when I said that we are not all Tati, which I know Tati is talking about some stuff with her brand again, but we are not that. Where we are starting off now, we are not that. So we have to take the baby steps to reach whatever the goal that we have. So that's kind of where I think mindset is with spending during sales, is we have to be completely honest with ourselves. We have to have a plan. We have to have a budget. We have to have a strategy. We have to, if it is removing distractions, if it's not looking at certain sales pages, if it is avoiding the people on YouTube or influencers that are talking about certain sales, that they're talking about items. If you have a problem with spending on Amazon, don't watch somebody's Amazon favorites. Just don't do it until you are in the mindset that you're not going to sit there watching the video and adding stuff to your cart. We have to know that about ourselves. So it's slowing down and checking ourselves and saying, what is the problem? What am I feeling guilty? Or am I looking at my credit card statement going, how the hell did that happen? Type thing. So Of course, you know, I'll link Caleb's channel down below if you guys want to get some tough love about people getting their finances audited, because like I said, it was a huge eye-opener for me just to even think about my future and think about the retirement, which I know one of you was like, I had no idea that there was a retirement calculator. So what is it, like calculator.net or something like that? They have calculators for everything. So like if you want to do like the snowball method to pay off debt, they have a snowball calculator. They have like loan calculators, mortgage calculators, they have a retirement calculator, they have all kinds of stuff. And so like I was able to put in like how much I have in retirement, my current age, how much I'm probably going to be getting from Social Security, which anybody can log on to the Social Security website and they'll pull up like if you continue to earn your current amount of money, like projected what you will get in Social Security down the line. Like anybody can look that up as long as you are paying into Social Security. But you put that in and then you put maybe like what did they say? Like what age you want to retire and things like that, and what percentage starting now you need to put into retirement to reach that goal. And for me, it was like 16 to 20% is what I need to bump myself up to. And that's starting here when I've been saving for retirement since I started working at, I think in the banking industry back whenever I was in my early 20s. So definitely something to think about, because otherwise it is extremely expensive to live now. It's going to be extremely expensive to live when we are ready to retire. So just something to think about, since a lot of my demographic that watches my videos is in this age range where we should really be buckling down and kind of already started on a lot of this stuff. Maybe purchasing the stuff on sale, maybe instead take that amount and put it towards retirement or saving or debt payoff. Like we can start to change our mindset to get those serotonin and dopamine hits from paying things off rather than buying new things to sit on a shelf and have a perceived value. So I hope that you guys continue to like these Let's Talk videos. I have so many of you that have said that viewing these videos and finding my channel has helped you to change your mindset, to try to set goals on different, spending and mentality and your relationship with money and debt and beauty and makeup. Like it's changed that, or at least it's like lit a little bit of a spark in you. So I really hope that these rambling videos are helpful. And also I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing me do the look with the It's My Pleasure palette, which a bunch of you had asked how I ended up getting this eye look. So it is very simple. I think I used 4 shades out of the palette and I was able to get this look. So hopefully you guys get some inspiration to use an older palette from ColourPop. But definitely I've gotten more ideas. I'd love to do a video like this at least once a month to do an eye look that you guys are asking for, while I babble about a topic that might be helpful. If there's a certain topic that you guys are interested in, let me know down below. I know a couple of people that I've been chatting with in DMs have also given me some really good ideas. And so I think I know what my next one will be, but kind of give me some topics for the one after that. And I would love to chat with you guys and give you my perspective about these types of topics and mindset ideas. So I'm going to encourage you to do all the things. Make sure to hit a thumbs up on this video. Let me know that you're still enjoying this series. Drop me that comment down below. Tell me about your mindset. Tell me about how you did during Black Friday sales. Give me maybe some of your insights into what has worked and maybe what has been challenging for you when dealing with sales. I'm very, very interested. Like I said, I think people are puzzles, and I love that about how each one of us is individual. So definitely let me know down below. Make sure to subscribe because of course I have more conscious consumerism, project panning, eyeshadow, beauty budgeting, and of course this Let's Talk series. So make sure to subscribe for more of this. But otherwise, I hope that you guys have a beautiful day and I will catch you in my next one.